Alright, hey guys, what's up? So today I wanted to start with my instructional video series, just basic skills for backpacking and camping that you might use in those situations. So as I stated in my intro video, I was looking forward to trying to get out to the Red River Gorge this weekend and do some camping out there. However, I ended up having some family come in from out of town that I haven't seen in a while, and I kind of forgot that they were coming in town this weekend, so I decided to stay home this weekend so that I could visit with them because I haven't seen them for a while. However, good for me is that I have this pretty nice large woodland area behind my house, so a lot of the instructional videos that I can do, I can actually kind of do out here. The only videos that I can't really do out here is I can't really do any videos where I'm making fire, mainly because this woodland area is still by a main road and it's by some subdivisions as well, so if anybody saw the smoke, they could easily call the fire department and I'd probably get in trouble. So we're going to avoid making fires out here. So for those kind of instructional videos, I'll have to do those when I'm kind of out at the gorge or a place like the gorge. However, some instructional videos I can definitely do out here, just videos that don't involve making fire. So today we're going to do a video over splitting wood. Now, traditionally, when most people think about you splitting wood, they think about you using either an axe or a hatchet or something like that. However, if you're backpacking and you're trying to really watch your weight of your pack, you're trying to count every single ounce because it's a man-portable system. You're going to be carrying it on your back as you walk many miles. So typically when you're in a backpacking setting, the lighter the better. So sometimes taking a big axe or a large hatchet is not feasible. It's just too much weight. However, it doesn't mean that you still can't split wood. And one of the easier ways to split wood, if you don't have a hatchet or an axe, is to use a large survival type knife. So today what I'm going to be using is I'm going to be using the K-Bar Turok. It's about a 6-inch cutting edge, and this blade is made out of 1095 high carbon steel. I will do a video over different types of steels, and I'll also do a video over different types of grains. Not grains, grinds, sorry. Different grind profiles on blades. If you're new to knives, if you don't know a lot about knives, the type of steel that the knife is made of is really important, and also the grind and the angles of the knife are also kind of important too, depending on what you want to do with the knife. So this knife, like I said, is 1095 high carbon steel. It's got a really good heat treat on it, so this is very strong steel. It can take a lot of abuse, and it also has a relatively high saber grind. So it's going to be pretty decent at splitting wood. And again, I'll make separate videos about different grinds and different types of steels and what you want to look for in a knife that you might want to use for a task like processing wood by splitting it. So the big thing though is that pretty much any knife that you're going to use for splitting wood, you want to make sure that it has a full tang. So what I mean by a full tang is that the tang of the knife, the actual steel of the knife, goes all the way to the back of the handle. So the handle is really just made up of these two scales that are bolted on to the sides of the tang. So the tang goes to the full length of the entire knife, versus some other knives where it might have a rat tail tang or it might have a partial tang, where the tang only sits like halfway in the handle. And those designs are good if you're just going to be slicing or cutting traditional things that you do with a knife. But if you're going to put a knife through some hard abuse like splitting wood, you really need to have that full tang. That's going to really help make sure that your knife is strong enough to handle that type of abuse. So let's get started, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Alright guys, so I ended up sawing off just a log for some dead standing wood. So this is what we're going to be using. Now, why you would want to split something like this. So typically if you're in a really dry environment, you typically don't need to really split large pieces like this. Because all the dead standing wood and all of the dead wood that's fallen on the ground is going to be dry. So that's going to be plenty good enough to actually create a fire lay and make a fire, get one started, as long as you have either natural tinders or you have synthetic tinders that you brought with you. Now, why you might want to split something big like this is if you're in a moist environment or a wet environment, environment that it's rained quite recently. You might need to split a large piece of wood like this to get to the kind of dry inner core of the wood. And that dry wood is what you would actually then use to get your fire started. So in an environment where it's rained recently, you can't use any dead fallen material that's on the ground because obviously it's all wet. So finding dead standing wood that you can then process down to get to the dry stuff really does help in those wet environments. It's pretty easy to make a fire in a dry environment. It's quite a bit more difficult to get a fire started in a moist environment. So that's why you might want to split wood. Now, again, like I said, we're gonna be splitting with this knife. Now, this piece of wood right here is actually pretty big. It's a little bit bigger than I'd be comfortable typically splitting, but we're gonna try it anyways. Never try to force anything, but I think we should be able to probably get through this, this piece. So what you're gonna need is you're gonna need what we call a baton in order to do this. So a baton is basically a piece of wood that you're gonna use to make contact with the opposite side of the blade to actually force the blade down through the end grain to actually split the wood in half. So with a baton, you really want to make sure that it's a nice solid piece, and it's got some weight to it. That weight's going to be able to allow you to generate enough force to push your knife through the grain of the dead wood that you're trying to split. So yeah, you want to make sure that you've got a good baton. This skill isn't really that hard to grasp, but finding a good baton sometimes can be a little bit challenging. Let me get this as far back as I can. There we go. Oh, we're almost through it. Woo! This was a big gnarly piece. You can hear it cracking. Of course, there are many other techniques to split wood. And again, like I said, this piece is really quite a bit bigger than I would traditionally use this knife for. I'm just kind of also testing the knife as well. I haven't split something this big with this knife before, so kind of wanted to see if it would take the abuse. It's just definitely something that's good to know. Yep, so you can see right now, I'm kind of getting towards the bottom of that. You can see right now, got a pretty good split in it. So this first split is gonna be the hardest just because of the diameter. Once I get through this, which should be very soon. Yeah, let's see if I can split it, finish with my hands. Yep, there we go. So there we go. We got it split right through. So now, process this even more. This is gonna be a whole lot easier now, for sure. It's gonna be a whole lot easier. I'm gonna get this up here, see if I can balance it, and it's not gonna work. It's not a flat area. It's always nice if you have a flat stump when you're trying to split wood, but that doesn't always get afforded to you. So this is some pretty hard wood. Again, if you're also having trouble, you just go find a heavier baton. That sometimes also helps too. This one's kind of light for as hard as this wood is. It'd be a little bit easier if I had heavier piece of wood. So yeah, that's basically how you split wood with a large knife. It's not rocket science. It's pretty, it's kind of cavemanish, to be honest. There are, like I said, other techniques for splitting wood. You can make wedges. Again, if you have a hatchet or an axe, you're gonna have a lot easier time splitting wood typically than using a knife. But again, like I said, sometimes you just can't take the weight of those. And so sometimes you've really got to use a knife to get the work done. And there you go, that wasn't as bad. And again, I can keep processing this down further and further. If I wanted to. So, yeah, that's pretty much splitting wood in a nutshell. This wasn't the best piece for representation, but yeah, it's not that hard to really do. You just have to give you some elbow grease sometimes. And like I said, this was harder wood and not the type of wood I've traditionally used, but just try to get out here real quick and make this video and not do a whole lot of time searching. And sometimes you can't be always afforded the most the best situations when you're out backpacking or camping. Sometimes you have to make do with what you have. So yeah, that's basically it. I'll make another video on creating feather sticks, which are basically just small fine pieces that you would get from the inner dry core of a log piece of wood. And those feather sticks you can use to use as natural tinder to help get a fire started. So that's basically just batoning wood with a knife. Like I said, you want to make sure that your knife is strong enough to handle the abuse of that. I'm actually really happy with this, that this was able to actually handle the abuse of that really well. A lot better than I thought it was going to, honestly. So like I said, yeah, you want to make sure you got a knife that has a good strong steel, and it has a good grind that's going to allow to split that wood a little bit easier. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more instructional videos on the way, and I will see you guys next time. So goodbye.